Welcome to this week's episode of Productivity in the Classroom. This week, we will be discussing 3 hot ed tech items that a teacher near you just might be using. During our first segment, we will talk about one of the most popular tools out there, Google Classroom. Google Classroom is an LMS, a learning management system. It is part of the Google Suite for Education that includes Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Forms, just to name a few. Many school systems are using this LMS to help teachers and students remain connected during these unprecedented times. However, I was using Google Classroom even before COVID-19, and I would like to share with you some tips and tricks I have learned over the years. After signing in to my school account, I will be able to see all of my Google Classroom accounts, and I have quite a few. Google Classroom is a learning management system that was developed for teachers to create, collect, grade, and give feedback on student assignments via most modern devices that can access the internet. That includes iPads, iPhone, Android phones, and tablets, as well as laptops running Windows or Apple iOS. I want to specifically talk with you today about how Google Classroom is not only a replacement technology, but how it can amplify teacher productivity and even transform it. Most teachers know how to create assignments and distribute them to their classes, but I will show you how I use Google Classroom to also replace my paper gradebook, put a grade on student work, give my students feedback, and transfer my grades to my district's electronic student information system, SchoolMax. First, let's look at Google Classroom, how we create an assignment and assign it to one student, several students, or several students, or all students at once. So in Google Classroom, you have several tabs. You have the Stream, your Classwork tab, your People tab, and your Grades tab. In the Stream, I've limited to just announcements that I make to the class that I want them to see. This way, they don't get an email every single time I post something, because every time I post an assignment, because usually I introduce assignments during class. So when we're in class, I will direct them to the Classwork tab to see the work that I have assigned for that day. So for instance, during quarter 1, I had my assignments delineated by week. But then as the quarter progressed, I created a topic first it was called First Quarter Progress Report, and now it's called First Quarter Report Card. And all of the assignments that we did first quarter are located there. This project was kind of a carryover from first quarter to second quarter. And these are our class Zoom links, which I usually like at the top. So I'm going to move it to the top so it stays at the top. Oops, gotta move it up again. There we go. And then these are some items that I have not categorized because we haven't really gotten into second quarter yet. And so we will on Monday though. So here's an assignment that I created, and I assigned it to all of my students at one time. So let me show you how I give them feedback. So not all students have turned in this assignment yet. However, there are 8 students that have, and I can click on those 8. They were to take a picture of the books they chose in our digital library that they want to read for themselves. So they took a picture of it. I gave them 5 points for every book that they chose. She chose 3 books. I'm going to say great choices. And if she wanted to, she could send me a message back about the assignment if she had any questions, and we could have a dialogue that way. Now, when I'm ready to transfer these scores over to the student information system, I will simply go back to where the list of students were down the side, and I would do a split screen with Google Classroom on one side and School Max on the other side, and just switch these grades over from one to the next. In order to create an assignment, once again, you would go to the Classwork tab and click the word Create. Then you would decide if you want to create an assignment, a quiz, a question, material, or reuse a post from a different class, or create a new topic. I'm going to create a new topic called quarter two, week 2. And you'll see that the topic appears here on my screen, but students will not see it because there are no posts underneath of this particular topic. So maybe under this topic, I want to create an assignment titled Annotate, Read and Annotate. We're going to read Thank You, Ma'am. Let's just call it Thank You, Ma'am. I'm going to cut that, paste it down here. All right, and here I'm going to put the story, because a lot of times they say, where's the story? So read and annotate. 20 points. I want to do next Friday, which would be the 20th. Usually I just let the time go forever. And then the topic would be quarter to week 2. I can attach a rubric to this. I've used a rubric for annotating before, so let's see. Right here. And I can change the title of this rubric. I can edit this rubric. I can change it to Thank You, Ma'am. And then I can change the rubric up however I need to. And then here I can assign it to one student, several students, or all students. And then I would hit the Assign button, or I would schedule it, which I would usually do, not for it to show up today. I would schedule it for Monday at 10:35, which is when this class starts. And then I would click Schedule. So they still won't see this assignment or that topic until 10:35 on Monday morning. In my next segment, I will actually create that assignment in another application called Kami and then upload it to Google Classroom for my students. So stay tuned. So we've talked now about how Google Classroom works as replacement for paper gradebooks, making copies, collecting papers, having stacks of papers to grade, and giving feedback. Next, we'll talk about Google Classroom as amplification. Using the rap battle for using technology in classroom, we have covered the R, replacement. Now onto the A, amplification. Amplification is technology used to increase efficiency and productivity without fundamentally changing the lesson. So Google Classroom allows for this with its basic uses of assigning and distributing work. This allows for a paperless classroom, which is a plus in most teachers' minds. It also amplifies teacher feedback because it's way more efficient and it streamlines administrative tasks like grading. It also allows you to pre-schedule your assignments ahead of time, which, to be honest, is great for the super organized teacher and the ones who strive to be like me. So you may say, okay, Kendra, I see how Google Classroom can be our replacement, right, for what we normally do, passing out papers and grading papers and things of that nature. And maybe you even say, I can even see how it's amplification, right? Because it makes those processes faster, right? It makes you being able to grade things faster. It makes you able to be more productive with pre-scheduling assignments and things of that nature, right? But you say, how can this also be transformative, right? Google Classroom app. Well, you may say, well, Kendra, I have the app. How is the app transformative? It's more annoying because it's on my phone and I don't want to grade and deal with my students on my phone. This is how it's transformative. If you notice in my diagram, I have a feedback loop, whereas I give feedback to my students, and if they read the feedback, they can make the corrections and we can have this conversation. So it's not just feedback, it is now teacher-student communication. Well, that happens in the classroom, maybe if you pull the kid over for conferencing or the kid comes to you, but this way you get to interact with all of your students and they all have an opportunity to give you that feedback, which you don't have the time for, or at least I don't in my classroom. We only have 45 minutes, right? I don't have time to conference with every student about their work, but I can create automatic feedbacks that I copy and paste into their assignments, and then they can then talk back with me, and I can see it pop up on my screen even when I'm doing other things, maybe teaching another class or monitoring another class or something like that, and I can quickly give them information or answer a question that they need to answer so that they can move forward with the work. They don't have to wait until the next day in class to ask the question or send me a long email. They can attach their question to the assignment that they're questioning, and I can give them instant or at least faster feedback on their work so that there's not a huge gap in time between the question that they need answered because they're working on the assignment and the answer that I'm able to give them so that they are able to finish the assignment. You can modify your settings on the Google app that allows you to change your notifications to only the things you want to be notified for. So you just go to the settings on your Google Classroom app, and when you're in there, you go down to device notifications, and you can turn on and off the notifications you want. So I only have mine set for comments on my posts, comments that mention me, and also anytime a student makes a private comment to me or even a public comment on an assignment, right? And that shows up here on this app that I can respond to when I have the time. And that's how I feel one way that Google Classroom could be transformative. You tell me ways that you think that Google Classroom can be transformative in your classroom. Next, moving on to some things that may not be so good about Google Classroom, but I have found some workouts for. Now, one thing that doesn't work so well for me in Google Classroom is parent communication. I can email guardians directly from Google Classroom. I can email one guardian or I can email all guardians. However, the problem is that when I send these emails, they don't show up in my Gmail account under sent mail. So, a lot of teachers have discovered this, and so they have said to Google, hey, how come these emails don't show up? And they thought that they did, and they don't, and they haven't fixed it, and it's been a couple of years. So this is the workaround. Well, it's not really a workaround, but basically there are some emails that I need for documentation. And so what I do is I just copy and paste the emails and also the student's grade report from Google Classroom, like if they have a bunch of missing assignments, which the student won't. but if they have missing assignments, they would show up here. And then I just copy and paste, and I use a tool called Snippet on my PC. And I'm able to then cut and paste the whatever it is. It's like a screenshot, but it's more precise. And I just copy it into a real Gmail account, outgoing mail, so that will show up into my Google, into my Gmail sent mail, so that I have documentation of that email. Otherwise, there's no real workaround for parent communication. You can send out the email, you just won't have any record of it unless they reply back to that email. You can also CC yourself on emails that you send out through Google Classroom sometimes. Let's see how that works here. Let's go back. And let's say that we're going to email this. No, I want to go to her report. And here you can hit the email. So here I can send the email to the parent and the student. And I can include the work summary, but I cannot even add myself to this email. And so not being able to add myself to the email means that unless I respond to this email, I will not have record of this email going out. So that is one kind of issue with Google Classroom, that the only workaround really is to just take screenshots of whatever it is you want to send, copy and paste their emails into a regular Gmail outgoing mail. Okay, so in summary, we know that Google Classroom is a learning management system that was designed to be a replacement for certain things that we do in the classroom, thereby making your classroom a paperless classroom. Now, of course, we can use Google Classroom to create assignments, pass out assignments, grade assignments, collect assignments, all of those wonderful things. As in the replacement stage. But we also know that it can be amplification in the classroom as well, because it makes things faster. We're able to get things out to students very quickly. For instance, if we want to give an instant assignment, we don't have to run down the hall to the copy machine and make those copies. We just put it in Google Classroom and assign it to all of our students, or just the students that we want to assign it to, and they'll be the only ones who see it. But I happen to also think that Google Classroom can be transformative in the sense that it can close up that feedback loop, allowing students to talk back and forth, bringing a conversation between the teacher and the student on individual assignments, which sometimes is sorely missing in classrooms when you have classes of 35 students or more, like I do. I hope you enjoyed this. See you for the next video.
Not much new here that we didn't already know, but I love it. Maybe I'm biased. Throw a beard on something.